The Thursday, May 14th, 2020 electronic meeting of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. It's not May 14th, it's
June
June
11th.
11th. This meeting is in accordance with the executive orders from the governor to effect social distancing and mitigate the spread of COVID-19 virus. We intend to conduct this meeting similarly to an in-person meeting. However, please be patient if there are technical issues. Public comment will be via telephone only. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 1-877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID #944-9275-4287. This information is also available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN channel 16, AT&T channel 99, and online at www.a2gov.org/WATCHCTN. Ms. Thatcher, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Epperson.
Present.
Commissioner Rockland.
Here.
Commissioner Quijano.
Here.
Commissioner Hall.
Here.
Commissioner White.
Here.
Commissioner Beeson.
Here.
Commissioner Kathy. Little help there?
Portner.
Thank you. Who is not present?
Thank
You
you,
have a
Ms.
quorum.
Thatcher. Okay, thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Pause, look, hearing and seeing no objection, the agenda is approved as presented. Audience participation. This is an opportunity for the persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about an issue that is not listed as a public hearing on this agenda. To comment on such other preservation matters, please call 1-877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID #944-9275-4287. This information is also displayed on the meeting agenda and video feed. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number. In order to electronically raise your hand to indicate your desire to speak, please press *9 on your phone. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. When speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any television or background sounds so that we may hear you clearly. Please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Unfinished business. There is no unfinished business. Hearings. F1. We will now move to an item F1 at 814 West Liberty Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
Thank you. This 1 3/4 story gable fronter first appears in 1894 Polk City Directory. Features wide board trim beneath the eaves, a full width front porch with hipped roof, wood lap siding, 1/1 windows, a cut stone foundation, and a shallow first floor bump out at the back of the west elevation. Property is on the north side of West Liberty, 1 house east of the intersection with South 7th Street. The applicant is seeking HCC approval to convert a 63 square foot rear single-story porch into enclosed space by adding windows in the existing openings and moving the existing rear door to the porch door opening. Here's the house. It's a lovely gable fronter. It has a shared driveway with the house immediately to the west. Here's the little bump out I mentioned. And here's the porch on the back. It was formerly enclosed by storm windows. There are no windows here anymore. The porch has been there for a while, but it does not appear on the 1948 Sanborn fire insurance map. The proposition is to take these existing openings, put new windows into the openings, there are 5 of them in all, and move a door that's on the back of the house into the door opening. Other work and insulating the floor would be done from the inside of this little structure. The footings stay the same, the skirting stays the same, the stairs stay the same. So really, for appearance purposes from the exterior, it's just filling in the windows with Anderson wood windows, double hung, and moving the existing back door. This back door looks pretty old, could be original to the house, not sure. It definitely has potential to be pre-1945. Here's the windows on one window on the side. This would be the east side. You can see the sills. There used to be storms there. There is a tongue and groove floor right now, typical of porches. The applicant, Mr. Sandberg, included some comparison windows, and there's a photo of that nice door that he'd like to move out onto the porch. And that's where it's located on the back. It's only 9 feet by 7 feet. Some more views of the proposed insulating in the ceiling and the floor. From the Secretary of Interior standards, number 2 says that the historic character of the property will be retained and preserved. The removal of distinctive materials or alteration of features, spaces, and spatial relationships that characterize a property will be avoided. Number 9 says new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Number 10 says new additions and adjacent related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property will be unimpaired. The guidelines for additions are included here. This addition is fine because it's already existing. It's not expanding at all. It is behind the building, so it is on the least conspicuous side of the historic building. It is limited in size and scale in relationship to the historic building. From the Secretary of Interior's guidelines for neighborhood setting, it's not recommended to introduce new construction that is visually incompatible or that destroys historic relationships within the setting. I can't actually think of an addition that would be more compatible with the existing structure than this small one. Windows not recommended is introducing a new design that's incompatible with the historic character of the building, and the building has double hung windows currently, so they are compatible and the proportions are appropriate. Staff's opinion is that the installation of 5 windows and a door on the porch does not destroy historic features, spaces, or spatial relationships, and is easily reversible should the room be removed in the future. Seriously, there's any damage that was already done, has already been done by attaching this to the building. Probably wasn't any anyway, but the cut stone foundation is fine. There's a glass block window down here. It remains, doesn't get touched. This is about as minimal an impact as you could have in order to end up with conditioned space on the back of a house. Thank you.
Commissioners Quijano and Hall were on the review committee. Will you please give us your report and recommendation? You want to go first, Jess Quijano?
Sure. As you can see in the photos, it's pretty straightforward. I don't have a whole lot to add to Jill's report. You really, this photo that we're looking at right now, especially with the bump out on that side elevation, you can't see the proposed new work from the sidewalk. It's pretty inset. from sidewalk view. And looking at all the trim work that exists around that we can see in this photo, nothing really is going to get removed or touched. I think, you know, they're just working with the existing openings that we see here. So very light touch here.
Well put. I don't have anything else to add. The staff report was thorough, and it's not visible from the street whatsoever. And it is incredibly minimal light touch. Agreed. Would the applicant please unmute your microphone and provide your name and address for the record? Do you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report?
Nolan Sandberg, 814 West Liberty. I don't think I have anything to add. I was pretty thorough, and you know, like everyone has said, it seems pretty minimally invasive to me, just adding the windows and moving the door, insulating it. I intend to keep all the character that I can, so I like how it looks now, so I just want to enclose it as part of the house.
Great. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? I would just ask, just to confirm, you're going to keep the door?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just moving it,
Yep.
Around the corner to the porch.
Yep. Oh, Commissioner Rockland.
Hi there. Nolan, are you rebuilding the stairs or any of the stair structure, or are you keeping that as is?
At this point, I'm keeping it as is.
Okay. I asked the question because it's probably best to keep it as is. I'm wondering, in your permitting process, it's possible that there may be an issue there if they, like a guardrail may be required, or the existing window that's next to the stair may be required to be tempered. I just asked that if either of those come across, make sure you circle back with the historic district, and if anything like that gets changed on the project, we'd like to know about it.
Okay, not a problem.
Commissioner Beeson.
Yeah, can we go to a photo that shows the existing sill conditions?
Sure.
There we go. So that piece of wood there, you could tell there's a few pieces of wood with wood trim. So what you treat as the rough opening and then the flashing and everything else that comes out in order to protect the wood underneath, those are all details that you'll have to be pretty particular with your window installer, as some of that wood trim, I imagine, is going to be in the way of making sure that it's watertight. So start thinking about some of those details on how to flash it and make it clean. In terms of what we're looking for our review, we're just making sure that it kind of meets and fits the standard, and that you're not changing the look very much. And most of the time you won't here, especially just sliding in windows. But as you look at how to get the windows in with the right flashing at some of those trims, you may have to remove or replace some of those trim pieces.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. I'd now like to open the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for our persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about the application at 814 West Liberty. Public comment may be made by calling 1-877-853-5247, then entering meeting ID #944-9275-4287. This information is also displayed on the meeting agenda and video feed. Jill, is this the portion I didn't have to read every time?
Yeah, you just did fine. That was
Okay.
perfect.
All
There's no one else in attendance besides people that we're expecting. So
Okay, so I'm not going to
There's no
read that every time now.
Okay.
Commissioners, do we have any additional questions? So my script doesn't mention anything about the making a motion. it ends with commissioners, do we have any additional questions? So
Why don't you ask someone to make a motion?
why don't we make a motion? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll do it.
Commissioner Epperson,
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 814 West Liberty, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to install 5 windows and move an existing door onto the rear porch as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, materials, and relationship to the house and the surrounding area, and meets the City of Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for all additions and windows, and the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings. In particular, standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for new additions, district, or neighborhood setting and windows.
Support. Bob White.
yes, seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Commissioner Beeson?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some casing and window detail changes based on some of the, like what we're looking at. Is that image still up there?
No. but I
Showing the
can put it up.
windowsill. Yeah, so that windowsill is probably the finished windowsill of the old window or whatever framing that was in there. And then the actual rough opening of the windows is probably, might be below that. So as the owner goes in and tries to look at detailing this, and the window manufacturers may come in and say, hey, we want to take this part out. I can imagine that some of the rough opening changes and some of the window casing might change, but by and large, I don't think it changes the application all that much.
Great. Is there any other discussion items? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Does that sound good?
Yep.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 Yes. What is the terminology here?
All opposed?
All opposed, please say no. Okay, I'm winging it here. Your application is approved. Is that what we say?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there another item after that? I can't remember.
Get a permit or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Check with the city
Don't forget.
to,
Make sure you follow up with the city. You'll get a letter in the mail in regards to your approval and direction with the city permitting.
Thanks,
Okay.
Nolan.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Nolan.
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing F2, we'll now move on to item F2 at 206 Crest Avenue. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
Charles Donner was the first occupant of this home in 1922. It's in the craftsman style with side gables, a full-width shed roof porch with a wide shed dormer above, tapered wood half columns above stuccoed porch walls, and a textured block foundation. It is at 206 Crest Avenue in the Old West Side Historic District. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to install a steel above-ground pool in the backyard. The pool is a gift from the Make-A-Wish Foundation to the owner's daughter. This house, some of you may be a little bit familiar with it. Actually, no, I don't think they've had a commission application. They've worked with me on renovations to the front porch that took place a couple of years ago. We visited the site. I knocked and rang, but didn't catch anybody at home. So we just basically confirmed that you cannot see 1 inch of this backyard. Here we're looking down the driveway side. That's an attached 1-car garage. You'll see in a sec on the drawings. So you can't look through to the backyard from that side. And this is the neighbor's driveway to the south. And there's a little tiny gap there between the garage and the house where you could possibly see or get into the backyard, but we weren't willing to walk around the house and try to figure that out. So we did confirm that any work that's going to go on back there, no one is going to be able to see from the street. The proposal is for a 12-foot by 24-foot oval pool. The yard is fenced back here completely with 6-foot privacy panels. The pool would be hooked up to the house's electric service to power the filter. Doesn't sound like it would be filled up, connected to water, either be filled with a hose or from a truck bringing water in. In the future, this is the house down here at the bottom. This is the attached one-car garage. There's a wooden deck right here. It's quite a bit lower than the pool, and they'd like in the future to build some sort of a deck connecting the lower deck with a pool deck in order to facilitate the owner getting her daughter in and out of the pool safely and quickly. But at this point, she's just worried about the pool. That's the part that's coming from Make-A-Wish. And the deck drawings are being worked on by a local architect. And you may see them shortly in the future, or they may just be an extension of this deck that I can give a staff approval for if they're minor enough. You can see here that there's a garage next door, partially blocking the view back to this yard, even though there's a 6-foot fence on all of these sides. And typical above ground pool. Looks lovely. I would have liked to have had that in my yard about a week ago. This work is completely reversible. The pool is low. It's, I believe, 42 inches above grade. I'm sorry, 52 inches above grade, the pool walls. Because it is so reversible, I do believe that it entirely meets the Secretary of Interior standards and the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines. They are working still with me and the city's zoning coordinator, John Barrett, to make sure that the pool doesn't fill up too much of the backyard, but we think we've got that pretty much figured out. We just have to wait for drawings to come in to make sure that we can accommodate both the deck and the pool. But for now, you guys are just worrying about the pool. So staff does believe that it's appropriate and approvable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Commissioners Quijano and Hall were on the review committee. Would you please give us your report and recommendation? Staff report covered it. You cannot see any of this. It's definitely reversible. I don't have anything else to add. Commissioner Quijano?
I would second those statements. It's not, this construction wouldn't be touching the historic structure. Sounds like even the proposed deck down the road won't be really impinging upon the home, but that's a separate case. Yeah, again, not much more to add, a very thorough report.
Okay, so would the applicant please unmute your microphone and provide your name and address for the record? Do you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report?
Hi, I'm Johanna Mabry at 206 Crest Street, and thank you all for your hard work at the Historic Board, keeping our neighborhoods historic in nature. I learned more about my property in this process, so that was exciting. I really don't have anything else to add, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, so commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? Okay, not seeing any commissioners having any questions. Would any commissioner like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Bob White.
Okay, Commissioner Bob White, yes.
I move that the commission approve the application for 206 Crest Avenue, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to install a still above ground pool in the backyard as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangements, texture, material, and relationships to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2 and 10, and the guidelines for building sites and the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for residential landscape features.
Support.
Seconded by Commissioner Rockland. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Beeson.
Jill, have we ever had a pool? Or is that
We've had one small in-ground pool about 3 years ago. That's it.
Yeah, I mean,
in the
I look
first.
at this. I look at the guidelines, and the first two guidelines are pretty clear about the completely removable and if it gets removed and all that stuff. The other Secretary of Interior's guidelines about building site, this is kind of a weird one because it says, designing or adjacent new construction which is compatible with the historic character. And as a pool, well, I don't know if we could argue if it is or isn't compatible. I mean, if we've only had one application and the guidelines don't really address above ground pools, this seems straightforward in many ways. Basically looking at the interior standard number 2 and 10.
Well, we've had some pools in the past. Not many, but we've had some.
Okay. Jill, I did miss offering the public an opportunity to speak on this item. Do I need to do that?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and offer that up?
Yeah, so I'd like to open the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application at 206 Crest Avenue. Do we have any public that would like to speak on this item? Any callers? Kristen? No, she's saying no. Okay, so we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Okay, your application is approved. You'll receive written notice from the city and follow up with any appropriate building permits.
What do you say, Ellie?
Hello.
Say.
Enjoy your pool.
Yeah, have fun in the pool.
Thanks, Hank.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Mm, yeah.
very
You're
well.
welcome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Bye.
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 Okay, let's see here. We're going to move on to hearing F3, item, sorry, at 539 4th Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
All right. This is a 1 3/4 story gable fronter that first appears in the 1909 city directory as the home of Joseph Arthur McGran, who worked at Varsity Laundry, and his wife Lena. Features corner eave returns, woodlap siding, wood wideboard eave trim, and a textured block foundation. The full width front porch was enclosed in 1931. That porch had a slate roof, which was replaced with asphalt in 1962. The original rear wing was 1 story. There's now a 2nd story atop it. And after visiting the site, you can see where the original 1st story is still there with a 2nd one sitting on top of it. It wasn't completely rebuilt. In 1996, the HGC approved a large rear addition behind the 2-story rear wing. And it's on east side of 4th Street between West Jeff and West Madison Streets. Applicant is seeking HGC approval to install a new deck and pergola, move a window on the 1996 addition and replace it with a door, and replace 1 modern window with 2 side-by-side windows of the same size. All right, here you can see the enclosed front porch on the front. It gives it a very distinctive character with those arched doorways, 2 of them leading to the front door. These are photos from the petitioner that are in the packet from back in January when we started talking about this when it was in the snow still. This is the south side of the house. This is what I'm calling the bump out. It's been there all along since the very beginning. This is the bump out here. It has a door leading out to the back. This is what was formerly the 1-story original wing. This window is not original and the foundation has been replaced and the 2nd story has been added on top of it. This is the 1996 addition, so everything back here is very modern. And you can see how the 3 walls form a sort of a semi-courtyard that's partially obscured by the bump out. This is what it looks like now in better weather. And these are basically the same pictures over again in the summer. The work that's proposed is to add a 2nd window next to this one. I believe that's in the kitchen. It looks a little bit like this one will be taken out and shifted over if the proportions of the drawing are correct. The window that you see here on the 1996 edition would be moved over to the north, and a door would be installed in its place. The historic door opening would just stay right where it is. I think that it's used very minimally. In the corner would be a 7 by 7 foot hot tub. The hot tub would be installed at grade, and a deck would be constructed around it so that you can get access from the 1996 edition straight out onto this small deck. And you can see better onto the deck from the added window on this side wall of the house. And this is a powder room on the interior that the small window would be moved to. You can see that there are 6-foot arborvitaes proposed to shield this deck, both for the privacy of the user and to shield it from view on the street. So this is the view that you would see from 4th Street. This is the new door, full light. This is the moved window. The deck is 18 inches off the ground. It would not have any guardrails or steps or anything like that. Here it is when you add the hot tub on top of that, it's 42 inches above grade. And then here we are with the arborvitaes added in front of that. And realize when you're looking at this, these two walls are not flush. This is probably 8 or 10 feet, the hot tub behind the front of this bump out. There's also a cedar pergola proposed. What you would see from the street is this 2x8 board and this post, and then the little lattice strips that are arranged on the top. You can see from the drawings that the pergola is attached to a ledger board on the rebuilt edition and another on the post going to the 1996 edition. This is in an effort to not touch this area of the house. There's some information on how the pergola would be built. From the Secretary of Interior Standards, number 1 says a property will be used as it was historically or be given a new use that requires minimal change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. And I already read number 10 to you about new construction. From the guidelines for neighborhood setting, it's not recommended to introduce new construction into historic districts that's visually incompatible or that destroys historic relationships within the setting. And for entrances and porches, it's recommended to design and install additional entrances or porches when required for the new use in a manner that preserves the historic character of the building, limiting such alterations to non-character defining elevations. From the guidelines for decks and patios from the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it's appropriate to install a deck in the rear of the property that's subordinate in proportion to the building, and to install a deck that is freestanding so that it does not damage historic materials. Let me go back up here and look at my notes and see what I missed. All of the proposed work is within the lot's building envelope, which means it's not in the side setback, so it meets all of the zoning requirements. It's kind of unusual, but not unprecedented for a deck to be located in the side yard instead of in the rear. There's a further explanation of this in the letter that was submitted by the homeowner. One thing to keep in mind is that I don't have a full-blown plot plan or site plan, but it's more than 60 feet from the street to the back corner of the bump out. So it's not like this is anywhere near the front of the house. In fact, if behind the house. Also, the new door on the modern addition and the new windows are invisible from the street. And all of the work is going to be completely reversible. This is another example of something that's easy to put in and easy to take out when you're done with it without any lasting harm done. So staff does recommend approval of the application. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners Quijano and Hall, we're on the review committee. Will you please give us your report and recommendation?
Again, it being on the side of the house seemed not strange, but different from what we typically see when reading the application. But being on site, standing out on the sidewalk and kind of walking around, it's so far set back that I don't think it would be a huge visual weight. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jill or Evan, but the backyard it's like a lower level, right? It slopes down, or the grade significantly changes. So in terms of usability for the owner, I think that this is the most opportune location for their needs. And yeah.
Okay. I would agree with all those statements and the staff report, and just reiterate that, yes, when you're standing in front of the house looking back, it is quite a ways, and it does feel sort of hidden. It does not feel like it's in the front of the house by any means, or very visible. So would the applicant please unmute your microphone and provide your name and address for the record? Do you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report?
Hi, my name is Chris Gentile.
And I'm Dara Moses.
And we're the proud owners at 539 4th Street. Nothing to add, and just to re-emphasize the usability aspect of this in this side yard, where yes, the backyard grade is sub-level grade, kind of far away from our bedroom.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? I'm not seeing any. Okay, I'd like now to open up the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application at 539 4th Street. Kristen, do we have any callers for this this item?
No callers.
Okay, no callers. Discussion. Commissioners, any discussion items? Commissioner Beeson.
Again, same one as the last application. This seems really easy to remove. So in terms of the guidelines, it meets it pretty well. I did have a question, follow-up question, not for the owners, but for the review committee. It seemed like the adjacent house was really close. Like, did that help with the kind of tunneling effect of giving it like this far back feel?
Good question. We did note that it was very close, and we were trying to figure out where the property line was, and we noted the slight variation in the grass depth from the lawn mowing to sort of guess where it would be. Are you getting at, did it feel, what are you asking? Like, did it feel tunnel-like, or did it?
I mean, it seems like with the adjacent building really close, when you're walking on the sidewalk, this is really the only view that you would potentially even see it, just because of the narrow scape that you have to see it.
Yes. I think it helps, like, if that's what you're asking, because
yeah, like it cuts out any other side view.
Yeah, you don't have much of a side view because the house is close, correct?
Yeah. And this front page does show kind of a look across the street.
Right. But if you're walking south, your view gets cut off quickly because of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other commissioners, questions or comments for discussion? Commissioner Rockland.
All right. I think that yeah, this project the design seems to meet the standards quite well. It's clearly removable. In terms of the windows and doors that they've chosen to move around and add, it's all on areas where I don't think that it's impacting any historic defining features whatsoever. And I believe it's compatible in that it is so far back from the street, and in terms of what you're actually seeing, it's going to be very well hidden and with the landscape screening, and there's just not so much that you're going to be looking at anyway. So I think I'll support this project.
Agreed. Any other commissioners with comments or discussion items?
Just kind of touching upon those same topics of being designed in a manner that's very compatible with the standards and guidelines. This you know, we'll often see some pergolas and off to the side. I think there was one project several months ago we saw there was pergola and some landscaping off to the side. And I think the way that this one is designed will be more fitting to the setting and won't stand out as much. The height of the pergola, you know, it's even secondary to the non-historic addition, which is a nice gesture, and the simplicity of it is well done. So, thank you.
Okay, agreed. Yes, they were thoughtful in their design. Agree with that. Any other commissioners? Discussion? Okay, let's move to a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Did we read the motion?
Oh.
Oh, no, sorry, that's my bad. We didn't read the motion. Who, is there a commissioner who would like to read a
I will
motion?
read the motion.
I was supposed to do that before the discussion, wasn't I?
I don't
My
know.
bad. So go ahead. Commissioner Rockland will read the motion.
Okay, I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 539 4th Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to construct a deck and install a new deck and pergola. Move a window on the 1996 edition and replace it with a door, and replace one modern window with two side-by-side windows of the same size. And install a spa as shown in the drawings. Does it
Right.
does it
Yeah.
not say anything about the spa? I'm just, okay, I'll just say, and install the spa as shown, as proposed. As proposed, the work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, materials in relationship to the house and the surrounding area, and meets the City of Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for residential decks and the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 1 and 10. That was 1 and 10, and the guidelines for district or neighborhood setting and entrances and porches.
Support.
Seconded by Commissioner White. We've already had the discussion, so we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Yes. And all opposed, please say no. This has been approved. So we will look for a written notice in the mail and follow any city permitting guidelines. That
Thank you,
sounds-
neighbors.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, let's move on here. The item G1, 1112 West Liberty, status. Item G1 is a review of the historic status of 1112 West Liberty Street. Ms. Thatcher, would you please give the staff report?
All right, 1112 West Liberty is in the Old West Side Historic District. The owner has hired architects to try to design an addition for this building. And the more I talked to the architects about it, the more I wondered about the contributing or non-contributing status of the building. It has some old historic elements and it has a lot of new modern elements. And in order for me to give them sort of a clear picture of how they need to move forward, I need your help to confirm that this is actually a contributing structure or whether it is a non-contributing structure, which I've been leaning toward. But it could go either way, which is why I need help. So there were very, very good records included, drawings and photographs included with the submission. And this was actually staff initiated. I just asked the builder to supply some of the drawings that they had shown me. This was the walk around that we did at the review committee. You can see that there's a 1 3/4 story house, gable front, and there's a wing, and that's the original parts of the house. On the front is this large addition that that juts out forward in front of the house. You can see where this is the original front line of the house, and here's where it's gotten bigger. This wing on the back has a rubble foundation, and it's also from the period of significance, presumably. And then when you go around the back, though, this is an enclosure for the basement stairs, obviously non-original. This corner was filled in. I did have Sanborn maps from, shoot, I should have brought those, I think from 1948. And I don't believe that this addition was on here, though there's some question about that because they found some old floorboards in this corner of the house. But I was working under the assumption that right here where the stones changed to CMU, right behind the air conditioning unit, is where the old one-story, probably a kitchen wing on the back stopped, and then this whole new back corner addition was filled in. Now we're going around the west side of the house. Again, you can see the original form here. You can see where the foundation changes. This was the original 1 3/4 story, but moving forward, everything forward of this corner is addition. And this is a pretty deep wall here. And now we're back around to the front of the house. They're very heavy brackets here, not brackets, but rafter tails that are a little bit incongruous with the design of the original house. And this is a drawing that was not in your packet, but that the architect supplied to me. This one shows the basement plan. So the gray is all, there's no basement. This is the slab. This is the front facing the street. This is where the newest addition is. This is the original 1 3/4 upright, and this is the original wing. And then back here, we've got something under the rubble foundation. And then this is the corner on the other side that I believe was filled in that has new CMU walls. This is even better. The first floor, the pink is all new. The slashed is all original, and the white is as well, pre-1945. And then the gray is the other back corner that I believe was filled in here. And then upstairs, we just have existing unfinished attic and a bedroom. These are the drawings that they supplied to us. All of the windows have been replaced on the house. All of the exterior doors have been replaced. There may be clapboard siding underneath the aluminum on the original part of the house, but there's probably nothing because these additions date back to about the time of aluminum siding's popularity, so I doubt that there's anything else underneath it. The windows are all, the window trim is all wrapped in aluminum as well. None of the additions have any sort of step backs at the corner, so you really have a hard time differentiating, unless you know what you're looking for, where the wall plane ends and begins. The foundation is the best indicator of that. On the back, the chimney has been clad in cultured stone. That's actually coming off soon because it's falling off, and they don't want the chimney to collapse, so they're going to do something different with it, but that'll just be a staff approval because none of that cladding is original. Let's see. This is moving around the west side. This is the garage over here next to it. The yard is pretty shallow in the back, and it drops off very steeply back down to other people's yards and then to the Slauson ball field or play field. They supplied some drawings. It should be noted, and I think one of the commissioners looked in the door, that inside the house, the front wall is essentially gone. It's not like they just enclosed a front porch or popped the front wall out a little or something. It's all continuous rooms in there now. This is the back. You can see that these windows have been messed with. So in terms of form, like massing and size, it's completely compatible with the Old West Side. I don't count aluminum siding as anything that can't be reversed. That doesn't really count toward lacking in historic character. The thing that gives me pause, though, is this enormous addition that was put on the front. The back, you know, whether that's, if that's modern, it's not great because it's not inset, but it's at least the same roof slope, and it's at least compatible with the other addition that was back there. But I feel my worry is that this front addition changes the character of the building too radically. And that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention, just to make sure before I tell them one way or the other to proceed as if it's a contributing house or a non-contributing house to have you guys make that call, so that we can be a little bit more straightforward about it. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Jill, this is a little different. We don't give review committee or any of that. Is this?
I had the review committee go there, so you can yeah, have the review committee give a report if you noticed anything that you'd like to share.
Okay.
But yeah, you don't no standard protocol, and you only have to make a motion if someone thinks that it should be changed from contributing to non-contributing status. Otherwise, it's just remains contributing.
So we just discuss it and then ask if we want to make a motion or not to
That'll work. Yeah.
Non-contributing.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That'll work. Yeah.
All right. Jess, do you have anything to add from this from the visit?
Not a ton. I mean, the historic gables, as we can see in the photos, they're legible. I mean, they're present. You can still read their form, and the scale of it, fits in nicely with its neighbors in the district. So that just the feel of it, walking along the sidewalk, walking around the house, the massing and scale, well, massing aside from the front addition and scale of it, felt appropriate. But yeah, it's one of the site elements definitely notable is that significant drop very quickly in the backyard. Just another major site feature that may or may not play into the discussion, but yeah.
I guess I'd add it's very clear when you walk around the different foundations. There you go.
Yes.
And I did look in through the front door, and that there's a beams that goes across so they have one big room in there. So yes, that is not the original facade is not there anymore. I guess it gives me pretty decent pause. Like the upright and wing with the shed off the back, this neat massing that was very prominent at one time is there, and you can see it. Yeah, there's a big addition on the front of it, but it's still there. And I have to admit, I have paused to just say we're just going to get rid of this. It sets a precedent where we're going to get rid of this, even though it's still there in some form. But I guess I'd like to discuss it as a group. And so I guess the next thing is just an open discussion now. Off my script here. So if any other commissioners have any questions or comments, thoughts for discussion?
You see my hand?
Yeah, I did. Sorry, we weren't on full screen there. All right, yes, Commissioner
It does
Beasley.
feel like it's separate from my body though. With the anyway, Jill, I was wondering if you could share again what you saw on the Sanborn maps. I missed that part.
Let me see did I put it in my staff report? Tell you what, why don't I look it up quickly while you guys are discussing? It'll just take me a minute here. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
So any other discussion while Jill tracks that down?
I can kind of think a little bit. So I get, this is definitely, a little bit of pause. Like, is it contributing anymore? And we're also looking at resources within each district to say, well, does this contribute what it was before? And it reminds me of like the building on Detroit Street where the lunchroom is, where the whole historic portion of the building is completely wrapped around. You don't even see it. And yet that one's still contributing. And here we have one where, we're trying to figure out, well, is the structure still kind of in its size, scale, and relationship? And does it therefore contribute based on its size, scale, relationship? It kind of raises a lot more of a kind of a 10,000 foot level discussion of what are the points of these districts and what are we trying to do as a commission, right? So I'll throw that out there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Any other commissioners' thoughts? Commissioner Epperson.
Yeah, so I'm looking at, I guess, what some of the, in the packet, there was the State Historic Preservation Office and Secretary of Interior standards for contributing, I guess, for historic and non-historic resources. And for contributing resources and non-contributing, the basic, I guess, point is whether or not it possesses historic integrity. And that's kind of, I think, the discussion that we're having. But what would we classify as like something having historic integrity? So the end sentence is non-contributing resources is, let's see, does not relate to the documented significance or due to alterations, additions, or other changes, it no longer possesses this historic integrity. Which I think we're kind of in a gray area where we're saying it does, to some degree, possess historic integrity in size, scale, relationship. It's still you can still see that roof line. You can still see the overall outline of what the initial resource was. But we're missing, or we're lacking some of the other character defining features such as windows, some of the siding, or all of it that we can see for now, doors. But those aren't the only defining characteristics, I guess. And there's many houses, I think, within historic districts that we would say don't possess all of those features, but are still contributing in some way, shape, or form. So to me, I guess it is some of that larger level discussion of what is that historic integrity and how are we defining that? Is there something concrete that we can stick to?
Commissioner Rockland.
Yes, this is difficult because you can imagine, like you're saying, the that original historic form that's still there. So what I'm thinking about is, okay, as it is, does it still contain the integrity with that big addition on the front that's basically taken, I don't know, 2/3 of the front facade away. And then there's just a little bit sticking up on the wing side. And so my first thought is like, oh, if you just take that all away and rebuild it, then the house is there and it has its integrity. But I think that will not happen in reality without something like this house had some important event happened at this house. So we need to, take 50% of the floor plan away and then preserve it, or, some other thing that's for some reason going to save this house. Because I think that what's left in terms of integrity isn't enough to save it. I guess that's kind of where I'm going in my thoughts now. And so as it is, which I think is how we're going to see it, without a proposal, it's hard to, know what to react to. But just as it is, I feel like the integrity is not there. It's more like, for me, the integrity could be there with some incredible restoration that happens. But if someone were to do that, also they would remove a lot of floor area and then only be allowed 50% of the historic to add on. And we don't have the numbers in front of us, but just kind of eyeballing it, it looks like, you would be taking away a lot of floor area in the house to do a renovation. So I guess that's the thing that's in my mind is just, I guess I'm leaning non-contributing at the moment because of the addition in the front, and there's just, I don't see it. I don't see the historic integrity being preserved in some way.
Any other comments for discussion? Commissioner Beeson.
Yeah, so Commissioner Epperson did a good job of like pointing us towards those definitions again in the packet. And I read through some more and then highlighted some parts. And I think in the contributing resource part, you know, and it ends the whole portion of it by saying the property is significant because it was present during the period of significance. Okay, it was in some form, and then relates directly to the documented significance. You know, and I can't, you know, again, unless we can point to something that has related documented significance to this house, it's far-fetched at this point. And then the last part, it says, and possesses historic integrity. You know, and the only historic integrity we see is a little bit of those roof lines. And I see it kind of looking at the definition for non-contributing as that one falls in line a lot easier, where it does not relate to the documented significance, and due to alteration, additions, and other changes, it no longer possesses historic integrity. I think as it was standing as a kind of gabled roof with another end of it kind of tied in, that would have read loud and clear as Old West Side. And we probably would have said, no, keep that, don't add an addition to the front of it, no way, no way. But as it stands now, I'm leaning towards the non-contributing as well.
Okay, any other comments, or Jill, you have the Sanborn maps?
Sorry, I do not have the Sanborn. In 1948, this was the first property outside of the Sanborn area. So I must have been looking at something much more modern. So my mistake.
Okay. Do we have any other comments or discussion on this item? Okay, I guess I understand what Commissioner Rockland laid forward, and I think I disagree. I think that you can, yes, it's maybe it's far-fetched that you could remove the front and you wouldn't do that because of the floor area, but if you do, someone could do that. And if we say non-contributing, then no one could ever do that, and it's gone. And these small little structures that exist in certain areas of our city, I don't know, I respect his opinion, but I disagree. But does anyone else have any other discussion?
So I guess I'm thinking, you know, say someone were to propose to remove that front addition. Now I don't know, you know, we don't have it's not in the Sanborn, so we can't really verify if there was a front porch or what was in the front, unless someone did some digging for photographs. But at that point, you know, someone could still put a front addition that's perhaps more compatible to the district, and that square footage isn't necessarily lost. Well, I guess the floor area rule comes into play, doesn't it? So I don't know. This is a tough one for me as well.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Rockland.
I see what you're saying, Commissioner Hall, and I'm just, I guess, kind of what Commissioner Quijano was talking about is how do you rebuild it? I mean, the form, certainly the massing is there, and it is easy to visualize what this house could have looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that enough? And I'll ask Commissioner Beeson or Epperson to after we have this again, please go to the definition again and let me know where you guys stand, because that was really helpful when you both did that. I'm more like thinking about these non-existent proposals, but please go to the definition at least one more time after this. But I guess I'm just thinking, like, what does that porch look like? Well, you know, where do you put the windows? Where do you put the door? There are no windows left. So I guess I agree, Commissioner Hall, like it's easy to visualize this. So is that enough to keep it?
I don't know, that it's discussion. That's why I'm just
Yeah.
having a discussion. Go ahead, Kathy.
I don't think we want to base this on what could be there. I think we have to base it on what's there. So I think when you look at the criteria in the Secretary of the Exterior guidelines, it's not relating to the significance, it's lost its integrity. It could be restored, but that's not what's there now. So yeah, I'm leaning toward non-contributing.
Question for Commissioners Keanu and Hall again on the site. The house is nearby. I mean, I could go to Google Street View and look around, but what would you say about the size of the buildings nearby? And I imagine they're probably just Old West Side, Liberty Street kind of homes, right?
I'm trying to visualize
That's
that.
a good question.
Yeah.
All right, Google Street View it is.
For some reason, I thought that they were a little taller, but
Yeah, I
no.
believe they're a little bigger. They're
The
bigger.
neighboring houses are bigger.
Yeah.
Bigger
They're full
houses, and
two-story.
probably more defined based on that kind of gable kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, I'm Google Street Viewing now.
I think it's
I'm
Some
going
of
to
them
turn.
are significantly bigger.
Commissioner White, I believe you had a comment.
I don't think it's contributing now the way it's set up. I mean, it was contributing at one time, but they've made a lot of expansions. And now you look at the floor space that they have, it's bigger than the original floor plan. I think it's not contributing.
Good street view. Here we go.
Yeah, there's some little ones farther
Yep.
toward town, but it's a mix. You can see different ages of houses here.
Mhm.
This is definitely one of those little guys. This one came in for a rare edition a couple years ago, some of you might recall. And this is the corner of Crest.
Is there any other discussion on the item? Not seeing any. Oh, Commissioner Beeson. Mute.
I find my mute button. Yeah, I guess this is kind of also the part of, we had one application with a similar kind of mindset coming in on whatever the street that was, Division or something.
Mhm.
And at that time too, we kind of struggled a little bit to kind of say, well, is this going to start a whole bunch of applications of people saying my building's no longer contributing, I don't have to worry about this. And this is, with the second one coming up, that's what made me think about it instantly, pretty quickly. But again, I think, our job is to kind of look at the neighborhood and say, okay, what is the look and feel of the neighborhood and what are the defining features of that neighborhood? And if we have a structure in that area of the neighborhood that is no longer kind of following that, then is it contributing? It's kind of hard to say that it is or it isn't, because sometimes you might have a garage with a totally different look or a house with a totally different look that was just built very differently in the 30s. And we could still say, well, it's contributing in its own right because it's so different. So I'm going to still try and look at these definitions and try and make a really concerted decision based on how I see each word in that definition. Yeah, because I'm still kind of worried about the whole slippery slope notion of more people coming. And I just looked down the street on Google Street View, and there's a house that has a weird addition on the front of it, just in front of the gable. It has a weird addition right on the front, and I'm like, that one's a little much more defined. You can still see the original structure. And, this one, not so much. Throwing it out there.
All right, any other comments, discussion? I'm not seeing any, but I'm seeing several commissioners zoomed in and looking at something or reading
Yeah.
something.
Well, I was just trying to see if I had those definitions handy where I'm sitting right now. I don't have my binder with me,
Oh,
unfortunately.
yeah, Commissioner Rockland did ask for someone to revisit that.
Sorry to.
Yeah, so those came in the like the meeting links. You could probably get it really quickly if you want.
Is it in there?
Yeah, so for this application, the G2 or G1.
It's in the packet, I believe, at the
Are they in there?
Yeah, it's page
Yeah,
2.
it's page 2,
Jill's memo.
Bill's memo.
the middle paragraph, page 2.
And I keep going back about the possesses historic integrity or no longer possesses historic integrity. You know, and I'm thinking more about, okay, well, what was it in 45? Because that was its historic integrity. And now it's pretty obscured. But that immediately makes me think of the lunchroom building or the Detroit, what is it?
Right.
Detroit filling station. Yeah, I'm still leaning towards the fact that the vast majority of the historic integrity is no longer evident. Like if I looked at this and said, okay, at one point in 1945, that was 100% of its historic integrity, and now we're down to 5 to 10%, maybe.
Well, there's a point at which, you know, it's either contributing or not. Unfortunately, we can't say it's 5% contributing. That's what makes it so hard. And so yeah, there's integrity. That term sort of, you know, at some point you lose it, right? So at what does it still have it, or at some point did this structure as it is now lose that integrity? And does another structure like the filling station, for some reason that's similar, does it retain its integrity for some other reason? You know, I mean, this is, we're obviously just talking about this singular address here, just this property in its setting. And I think it's good that we're struggling, because this is like the most important decision, you know, that we make, I think, here is what it sort of, like people have mentioned it, it takes you out to like a higher level of thought in terms of historic districts.
Jill, is this in the old Fourth Ward or the old West Side? I mean,
Old West Side. Yeah, it's in the Old West Side.
And so we didn't have any old West Side people speak to this, or neighbors speak to it, or any public comment that came
No,
in?
there's no public hearing because this is just staff initiated.
Oh,
You don't have to have a public hearing on the status of the building. If you felt better about it, if you felt better having one, you certainly could. But mostly I just wanted to get a discussion rolling to be able to give these people a little better guidance on some changes that they want to make to the house. And keep in mind that if it becomes non-contributing, then somebody could come along and bulldoze it, but they would have to propose something else in its place that is compatible with the neighborhood. The neighboring houses are a little bit bigger. I think on the site visit, I said something about, well, if someone wanted to build a new house here, I'd say build one that's about the same size as this one. But looking at the street view, it would probably be a little bit bigger than this one, because the new house doesn't have to, you know, obviously retain the character of its predecessor. So it's just something to keep in mind. And one other thing that really got me thinking about this was when you have a one-story cottage and someone puts a full second story on top of it, that in my mind is a clear loss of historic integrity. But people still struggle with it. There's a house in the Broadway Historic District that had exactly that happen. And the committee, the study committee for the Broadway Historic District, determined that that was a contributing structure, even though it's now a 2.5-story cottage instead of a 1.5 or less story cottage. that's one that we might struggle with someday. But we've had a couple other ones in the Old West Side that a second story was added onto. I realize this is different, but it is a fairly major change in massing. This one's just horizontal instead of vertical, in my opinion. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Well, is there a commissioner that would like to make a motion?
I actually have a question.
Okay.
What Commissioner Beeson raised about a public hearing, is that something that we would make a motion on in order to do that, or something that we'd be interested in, as opposed to, you said in the beginning we don't have to make a motion for this at the moment. So I guess what are the protocols if we don't want to, or if we want a public hearing instead?
If you want a public hearing, you could just wait until the application comes in for whatever work they want to propose. That makes it a little bit tough for me to advise them, however, but obviously they've watched all of this discussion, presumably, and they can kind of see that they're as stuck in the middle as this body is. So I think they'd have to, you know, use that information. If there was a clear consensus here and everybody said, yeah, this is a non-contributing structure, I think that would be different. But if you want to just leave it where it is for now and revisit it when an application comes in, you could do that. Or you could say, let's have a public hearing first before we even get an application in, put it on next month's agenda for a public hearing. That would be an easy thing to do. I have no sense of whether you would get more public input, but happy to do it for the sake of, you know, hearing out the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, part of me feels like, you know, we're part of a commission that represents the best interest of each of the districts. And without hearing some of that best interest from the district, I feel like, though I would be pretty quick to say that it's non-contributing, I still feel it would be pretty important to hear from not just the district itself, but also as the property did on Division Street or whatever it was, where they bring in some historic experts to go and evaluate the building as well for their best judgment of contributing, non-contributing, or era type structures.
You keep in mind that this was staff initiated, this conversation, that they don't have experts. They're not, you know, they're not leaning one way or another. They're just asking for help to know what they should design on their house. And I don't want to get into the details of the design because that's not supposed to be what we're talking about here. It's just the current status of the house.
But Jill, can we discuss how they've used up their allotment essentially, or not?
Yeah, so obviously the footprint has been expanded by 50% or more. That's pretty clear. The floor area I've not calculated, and that probably wouldn't be too hard to do. Some of the work that they were proposing was a gable on the wing on the back of the house, and that actually wouldn't add floor area. Really, it would just be expanding the use of the existing space, making it a little more habitable. I think that the biggest problem for them was going to be the ridge height of the wing, which is a little bit lower than the ridge height of the gable front roof. And that was one of the reasons that they were thinking about asking for some things that would not be appropriate on a contributing structure.
So I'm not sure how we proceed here. We've had a couple different ideas thrown out. Is there a commissioner that feels strong enough to make a motion to have a vote?
Well,
Since you guys-
I'll make a motion. Bob White. I'll make a motion that we can.
So, just to be clear though, Bob, if you have a motion, we're gonna have a vote, and then we won't have anything that's suggested by Commissioner Epperson or Beeson or anyone else. Is that correct, Jill?
Right. In fact, you might want to strongly consider just somebody requesting a public hearing for next month.
That's fine. I request a public hearing next month. Bob White. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, supported by Commissioner Epperson and Beeson, I believe. I'm not sure who chimed in first there, but Jill, is there anything else you need to do protocol-wise for that?
There's not. We don't send out notices for public hearings, but I'll be sure to send a note to the Old West Side Association to let them know that this is going to be on an agenda with a public hearing for next month. And if I can scare up any more information between now and then, obviously I'll add it into the staff report.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jill.
Thanks, Jill.
Sorry we couldn't help you anymore.
Thank you all.
Good thought process.
It makes me feel a little better that, you know.
Yeah, you're not alone.
All right.
I just
So-
I think the idea of having the opportunity for the neighborhood to possibly weigh in, you know, is just part of doing our due diligence here. You know, I don't know how many people, if at all, are aware that this is being considered. So I think that's just the right thing to do.
Okay. All right, so then we move on to H, is that correct?
Mhm.
Minutes? We're done with, okay. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the minutes? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please say yes. All opposed, please say no.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Okay. Motion carries. I, reports from commissioners. Would any commissioner like to share something with the commission? I'm not seeing any reports from commissioners, so we'll move to J, review committee. The review committee will be on Monday, July 6th, 2020 at noon for the July 9th regular meeting. Do we have any volunteers?
Well, is it at noon?
It's at any
Does it?
time you want it at.
Well, I was all excited because I could do 5.
We could do 5. We probably
Okay.
should do 5 because we've had a lot of noons lately.
Mm.
Anyone else want to join Kathy?
I am not available. I'm sorry.
I could potentially do it. Can I let you know, Jill? Is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Hearing no one else saying definitely, so I'll be in touch, Jill.
Yeah, if you could just confirm that
Yep.
after you double check,
Yep.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Will do.
Jill, do
All
you
right.
know?
K1, reports from staff. February, March, April staff activities reports. Ms. Thatcher? Jill, you're on mute.
Someday I'll learn. It's just the May staff activities report. I did not even print out a copy for myself. So if anybody has questions, just tell me what address it's about. There was nothing much exciting that happened in May. Things are picking up though. Lots of builders going back to work, which is good.
Good to hear. All right. So we'll move on to L, concerns from commissioners. Are there any concerns?
Not a. Oh,
Well, Commissioner Rockland, I think you had your hand up first.
Did we get an email about an e-comment, and what is that? There was a link in it. Mia sent out an email that I didn't really get what that was.
I don't think we were supposed to
was
click
all-
on that. It seemed
Yeah.
like it was a virus of some sort or something. I don't know. Maybe
Well,
Cliff could expand.
E-comments are a way that the public can comment anything on a meeting agenda, and
Okay.
it's kind of new to us. And I think that's the first one we've ever gotten. And yes, it was clearly spam or a virus or something evil. So I think that she saw a name in there that was pirated from somebody who was attending the meeting and wanted to make sure that you guys saw it just in case, but we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Don't do anything with it.
Meaning we're going to talk about it now, or no, we're not
No,
talking?
no, just,
Okay.
no, I mean, just don't click on the link and you'll be
Okay,
fine.
yes,
Just delete it.
got it. All right, any other, Commissioner Keano had a concern.
Not so much a concern, just a question about next month's meeting. Do we know as of yet how the city is proceeding with
We
such
do
meetings?
not. We do not know. At this point, I'm assuming that it will be electronic, but I have not been told otherwise. The state has given municipalities the go-ahead to have electronic meetings through the end of June. And at that point, they're going to have to declare either another month of emergency meetings electronically, or they may say, do whatever's most comfortable for you. I kind of doubt that they'll order us to have in-person meetings. That day will come eventually, but I'm planning on an electronic meeting in July, if at all possible.
No, I was just curious. Thank you.
I just want to mention that the electronics was different last month than this month. So you've done an excellent, outstanding job each month. It's not easy to get this done. So I appreciate that, Jill.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay. And Kristen too. I mean, she's dialed in over there behind the scenes as well, it seems like. So thank you.
It as well. I agree.
Yes.
It was my
All right, any other concerns? Not seeing any. Communications, M1. There are no communications to the HDC this month. Oh, no. Jill.
I don't have a communication other than to remind you all that there is a working session following this meeting. So it's up to the chair if you want to take a break or just plow right into it. But the applicant, the future applicants are here. So after the meeting is adjourned, just please don't run away.
Okay, does any commissioners like to make a motion on a 5-minute break or not, or everyone just want to plow?
I'd like to make a motion on a 5-minute break.
Okay, that's fine. As long as we have someone speaking up for that, we'll take 5 after the adjournment, which is the next N. Adjournment. That's all it says. I don't know. I'm supposed to say something. This ends the June 11th, 2020 HDC meeting. We're adjourned for 5 minutes starting now.
Thanks,
Very
Evan.
good.